for the connection to lives.
Show up. Everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Committee of Adjustments. Before we call the meeting to order, I'll just introduce the committee. My name is Joseph Greco. I'm the chair of the committee. To my left, we have Mr. Wayne Greco, Ms. Melinda McGregor, and Mr. Anthony Rossi. All that being said, I welcome you all. Michelle, we'll call to order.
And if I could just remind committee members and people in the gallery, if you go to the podium to speak, please speak right into the mic. A live stream has a hard time picking up if you turn your face away from the mic. And Mr. Chair, we'll just hang on for 1 minute. Mr. Bruni was coming. Do you know if he's?
Probably not.
Okay, then I think we can proceed then. So we'll start with the land acknowledgement. I acknowledge with respect that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawating. Bawating is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. Mr. Chair, if I could have a motion for the minutes of May 15th,
A second for that motion.
that's approval.
Yes.
Terry, I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Thank you.
Motion is carried.
Just a minute. Mr. Chair, Member Rossi has advised that he wished to disclose a pecuniary interest in tab 2, and that would be an application from application A1824, an application from Lori and Louis Mazuka. Mr. Rossi Rossi advises that they're relatives by marriage, and he'll remove himself from the chambers when the application is considered. Matters not appearing on the agenda, and I don't know if anyone's in the gallery on application B1224, 44 Great Northern Road. I don't think so. And the reason I'm advising is that application was circulated for notice. However, the information that was requested of the applicant that was crucial to the committee's hearing was not provided. And so it's been pulled from the agenda and won't be considered today. So we'll move along right to our first application, and that would be application A1724. It's a twofold application. It's also a minor variance and a consent. The consent application is P1024. Don Mackey is the agent for his father, James Mackey, and Don isn't in attendance, but he is available by phone. So we'll begin with the consent so that you'll know, we'll begin with the minor variance so that you understand what's needed in order to proceed with the consent. James Mackey is the owner of the east quarter of the north half of the northeast quarter of section 29, former township of Cora, municipally identified as civic number 1513 Third Line West. It is located on the south side of Third Line West between Town Line and Lees Bay Road. The subject property is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned RA rural area. The subject property has broken frontages on Lees Bay Road and frontage on Third Line West. Subject to the final consent approval of application, and please note it's application B1024, not B7.
I lost you.
The required lot frontage of the proposed retained parcel. Specifically, sections 8.5.2 of zoning bylaw 2005-150 requires a minimum required lot area of 0.8 hectares. The applicant seeks to reduce the minimum required lot area for the proposed severed lot to 0.59 hectares approximately. They also seek a minimum required lot frontage for agricultural use for the proposed lot is 75 meters, the retained land 75 meters. Seek to reduce the minimum required lot frontage for agricultural use for the proposed retained land to 50 meters, which is broken frontages of 30 meters and 20 meters on Lees Bay Road. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and posting on the city website. No public input was received on the application as of the time of the writing of my report, and I don't believe there's anyone in the gallery to speak to that application. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review. Algoma Public Health, and I had no response. Building Division, no response. Canada Post, Conservation Authority had no concerns. Engineering and Construction, septic system designed to the satisfaction of Algoma Public Health for the proposed severed parcel. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division had no objections. They had the following comments. Planning staff have reviewed these applications in tandem and note. Application B1024 does not conflict with current official plan policies on severance and lot creation in the rural area. It is understood that the severed parcel is intended for residential uses. Several other adjacent properties that contain residential structures are considerably less than 0.59 hectares in size. Thus, the severed parcel will not be out of character with the immediate area. The retained parcel will only be accessed via Lees Bay Road. This parcel will not conform to the frontage requirements of 75 meters for agricultural uses. However, there are a number of similar agricultural properties in the general area that have less than 75 meters of frontage. The approval of this application will not prevent the continued agricultural use of the retained parcel. And therefore, planning staff have no objections to the severance and are of the opinion that the requested variances are minor, are desirable for appropriate use of the property, and maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. PUC Distribution, being the electrical line, had no concerns, nor did PUC Utilities. For water, no concerns. Public Works had no comment. Staff comments, no objections to this variance request. Recommend approval be conditional on final consent of application B1024. And I'll go into B1024 now. They're seeking to create a parcel fronting on Third Line West, being 81.07 meters of frontage, 64 meters in depth, and approximately 0.519 hectares in size. The retained lands will have frontage of 20.11 meters and another frontage of 30.5 meters for the retained land for a total frontage of little over 50.6 meters. The depth of the retained land is 403.99 meters and is approximately 12.14 hectares size. Notice again of public hearing was sent by personal mail to the neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city's website. And again, no public input was received on this application. The same comments that I read previously were submitted for the consent as well. Staff recommendations, no response submitted from circulated property owners. Staff and outside agencies did not object to either request. No evidence has been submitted to suggest that approval would have a negative impact. Recommended conditions of any approval are payment of cash in lieu of parkland for the proposed new lot, payment of certificate application fee, provide a transfer deed of land for certificate of official, provide reference plan, provide PIN abstract and PIN map, minor variance application approval if required, and that's if the subsequent survey reveals there's a variance. Discharge of charge or mortgage, partial discharge or charge of mortgage, and payment of taxes. And Mr. Chair, those are my submissions, and I will need a motion for each application, and I think we need to deal with the variance first.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Is there anybody in the gallery that would like to speak to this matter? Seeing that there's nobody. Members, does anybody have any comments or questions for anybody? All right. Let's start with the minor variance application. Can I have a motion in favor of the minor variance application?
I'll make them.
Okay,
Does, support this.
can we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Rossi. All in favor?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Right, now we're gonna move to the consent application. Again, seeing nobody here to speak to the matter. Any comments or questions from members? Okay, have a motion for or against, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Seconded by Mr. Rossi. All in favor?
That's with the conditions, recommended conditions.
Yes. Motion's carried.
Step out 1 minute. We'll note that Mr. Rossi has left the chambers. And we'll move to tab 2 on your agenda, and it's an application from Lori and Louis Mazuka. And Mr. Mazuka, if you'd like to come to the podium. Application A 1824, an application from Lori and Louis Mazuka, owners of 10 Dalgleish Road. It is located at the dead end of the unopened Dalgleish Road and abuts the St. Mary's River. The subject property is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned R1 estate residential. In accordance with section 45(2)(a) of the Planning Act, the applicant requests that the committee authorize a minor variance to permit the enlargement of a legal non-conforming structure. The applicant proposes to expand the existing residential structure by raising it and constructing a new lower level, relocate kitchen and living room, replace existing entrance with a new front entrance, add a carport on the westerly side, add an open roof deck on the southerly side of the structure, and add a roofed walkway or deck on the easterly side. Whereas zoning bylaw 2005-150 prohibits the use of the land, building, and structures except for a use that was lawfully in existence on or before the day the bylaw came into force, being October 26, 2005, and does not permit an expansion of such use, building, or structure in this instance. And it's legal non-conforming because it does not front on a publicly assumed and maintained city street. Specifically, bylaw 2005-150, section 4.3, frontage requirement. No structure may be erected upon a lot that does not have frontage on a publicly owned and maintained street. The applicant seeks to permit the enlargement of a legal non-conforming structure established around 1950 by permitting a front yard of 8.716 meters. The bylaw requires 12 meters. Again, an interior side yard of 3.5 meters. They're proposing a west interior side yard of 1.83 meters, which is where the carport would be. The other interior side yard would be 6 meters. The other interior side yard that the applicant is proposing is 3.1 meters, and that would be the covered walkway. And the rear yard requirement is 15 meters, and the rear yard here is 18.59 meters to the deck. So they have plenty of rear yard. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city website. No public input was received on this application as of the time of the writing of this report, and I believe there's no one else in the gallery other than the applicant to speak to the application. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review. Algoma Public Health has not responded to dates. Building Division had no response. Conservation Authority stated that the subject property is located within an area under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Authority regarding Ontario Regulation 4124, prohibited activities, exemptions, and permits. Further to that, this property is subject to the Conservation Authorities Act and Shoreline Management Plan. Any development on the subject property will require a permit from the Sault Ste. Marie Region Conservation Authority. Engineering and construction had no comment. Fire services had no comment. Legal department had no comment. Planning division is supportive of the application and advise the irregular shape of the lot restricts the size of the building envelope to an atypical size for the immediate neighborhood. This neighborhood is generally characterized with houses, cottages situated closely together and is quite typical for properties to not conform to the 3.5 meter and 6 meter setback requirements for interior side yards. The addition of the new front entrance and the roof deck on the southerly side of the building are also similar to the existing pattern of development in the neighborhood. Thus, the proposed alterations do not represent a significant deviation from the neighborhood character and represent a desirable and appropriate development of the subject property. Planning staff do not expect any nuisance or privacy issues with the proposed alterations, provided the side and rear of the carport remain open. This, coupled with the visual barrier provided by the mature trees and vegetation, will minimize the visual impact of the carport from the neighbor to the west. Furthermore, an open carport will allow for access to the rear yard should the committee approve this application. It is recommended that a condition be placed on the carport that it must remain open on all sides except where attached to the house. Therefore, planning staff is of the opinion that there will be minimal impact on surrounding properties, and the application represents a desirable and appropriate improvement to this property. PUC Distribution Inc. Electrical Services had no response. Well, sorry. They advised that they have no concerns with the proposed minor variance. The Electrical Authority advised that there is a primary electrical distribution line. You can tell the comment just came this morning. There is a primary electrical distribution line along the rear on the beach side of the property. PUC completed a swing calculation for this property in 2022 and requires a 3.6 meter, 11.8 foot horizontal clearance between our power line, that being their power line, and the proposed covered porch. This is met with the provided proposed plan. There is also an overhead secondary electric service to the residents on 10 Dalgleish that is currently connected to the east side of the residence. The proposed covered sidewalk on the east side of the residence may require this service to be disconnected and reconnected for construction purposes. Those comments will apply, are intended as information to the application, to the applicant, and during construction process, you'll know if you have to get a disconnection or not. Public Works had no comment or concerns. Staff comments? Under Section 45(2) of the Planning Act, the committee can permit an enlargement or extension to an existing legal non-conforming building or structure wherein the use of such building or structure does not conform with the provisions of the zoning bylaw, but legally has been in continuous existence before and following the date the bylaw was passed. The committee must keep in mind that the test to whether they should allow the expansion is not the 4 tests applied to an application under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act. There is no such detailed advice provided in the Act for legally non-conforming applications other than the general requirement that decisions are consistent with policy documents such as the provincial policy statement. By and large, the measure to be considered is whether the proposal would create undue additional or aggravated problems for the municipality, local authorities, or the neighbors compared with what has been. Planning staff are recommending that any approval be made conditional on keeping the north, south, and west sides of the carport open. The applicant has advised me that he agrees to that condition being applied to any approval, and PUC comments are intended as information only. And those are my submissions, Mr. Chair. And again, it's Mr. Mazuka at the podium.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. Mr. Mazuka, welcome. I just want to make sure one thing is on the record. I know it's written here. You understand and you're okay with those sides of the carport remaining open for?
Yeah, I have no concerns.
Perfect. You have any comments for the committee?
I think everything was covered.
Perfect. Any comments from committee members or questions for Mr. Mazuka? Seeing none, be looking for a motion on this application.
Put forth a motion to approve the application. I feel like it represents what's in the neighborhood, the characteristics, and it's not creating undue additional or aggravated problem.
Thank you. Ms. McGregor, can I have a second for that motion? With the conditions that were asked in there, of course. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Mazuka. You can leave the chambers.
Thank you.
No problem.
Steve, would you? Mr. Rossi has rejoined us.
Thank you.
The next matter on your agenda under tab 3 is an application from Terry Pinder on behalf of Daniel Todd Pinder, and Mr. Pinder is making his way to the podium. And we'll note that Cynthia Pinder is online by telephone. The property owner, Daniel Todd Pinder, is the owner of 140 Connor Road. It is located on the north side of Connor Road, east of 6 Line East and Landslide Road intersection. The subject property is designated rural area in the official plan and is zoned RA rural area. The applicant is seeking the committee's consent to sever and convey an easterly irregular shaped portion of the subject property being approximately 0.04 hectares in size and convey it to the abutting property being civic number 162 Connor Road, which is Mr. Terry Pinder's property. The retained lands will maintain an area of approximately 1.75 hectares. The intent of the application is to address the existing garage encroachment and convey 2 existing wells servicing the abutting property known as civic number 162 Connor Road. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties, by posting a sign on site, and by posting on the city's website. No public input was received on this application as of the time of this writing, and as I glance around the gallery, I know that there's no one else here other than Mr. Pinder. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review. Algoma Public Health did not respond. Bell Canada had no concerns. Building Division did not respond. Conservation Authority did not respond. Engineering and Construction had no comment. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division had no objections, advising that the severance will conform to the side yard setback requirements of 5 meters for rural area zone properties with residential structures. Although 162 Connor Road has a legally non-conforming lot size of approximately 0.33 hectares, the conveyance of the severed parcel will somewhat improve that situation. PUC Electric and PUC Public Utilities Water had no concerns. Recommended conditions of any approval are: provide a transfer deed of land for certificate of official, consolidation application, lot addition merge clause, submit certificate of official application fee, provide reference plan, provide PIN abstract and PIN map, minor variance application approval if required, discharge of charge or mortgage, partial discharge of charge or mortgage, and payment of taxes. Those are my submissions, Mr. Chair. And again, it's Terry Pinder at the podium.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pinder. Welcome to the committee. Did you have any comments?
No, it's been,
Looks like everything here, anything that helps the situation there rather than there's anything. That being said, any comments from committee members? None. Seeing none, can someone give some motion? Visual.
With this stipulate.
Perfect, thank you. Can I have a second from Mr. Rossi's motion? Seconded by Ms. McGregor, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Pinder. Thank you.
Moving to tab 5. This is an application from Derek Reinhardt, application B1124, and his wife Carol is approaching the podium. Again, application B1124. Derek Reinhardt is the owner of lots 14, 16, and 17 Allard subdivision, plan H407, former township of Cora, municipally identified as civic number 1 Royce Avenue. It is located on the northeasterly corner of the unopened Royce Avenue and Warren Avenue. The subject property is landlocked and has been developed as part of the northerly abutting parcel being 1191 Wallace Terrace. It is designated residential in the official plan in a zoned R2 single unit residential. The applicant is seeking the committee's consent to sever an easterly portion known as Lot 14, Plan H407, and convey it to the abutting property being civic number 1181 Wallace Terrace. The proposed lot configurations are: the severed parcel would have a width of 30.48 meters, a length of 46.75 meters, and an approximate area of 0.14 hectares. The intent of the application is to attach the proposed severed parcel as a lot addition to civic number 1181 Wallace Terrace. Notice of public hearing was sent by personal mail to neighboring properties by posting a sign on site and by posting on the city's website. No public input was received on this application as of the time that I wrote the report. And I believe Derek is the only other person in the gallery.
On phone if you need him.
Pardon me?
If you need him, he could be. on-
Oh, okay. As part of the application review, this proposal was circulated to the following internal departments and external agencies for their review. Bell Canada Right-of-Way had no concerns. Building Division did not respond. Conservation Authority did not respond. Engineering and Construction had no comment. Fire Services had no comment. Legal Department had no comment. Planning Division had no comment. PUC Inc. and Public Utilities Commission had no concerns. Recommended conditions to date are no objections to date. Recommend that any approval provide a transfer deed of land for certificate of official. Consolidation application, lot addition merge clause, submit certificate of official application fee. Provide reference plan, provide PIN abstract and PIN map, minor variance application approval if required. Discharge of charge or mortgage, partial discharge of charge of mortgage and payment of taxes. And is there anyone here other than Carol to speak? If you just come to the podium and identify yourself.
Steve Dinsmore,
Your address, Mr. Dinsmore?
1181 Wallace Terrace.
You.
And you're the party that the property is going to, right? You have any comments? No, okay. And your postal code, Mr. Dinsmore?
1M8.
1M8, thank you. You can have a seat.
Any comments from your,
Bring this up, but there's surveys, one the year that we purchased property and nothing has changed. Hoping that we don't have to do a survey because there are no buildings that were put on that lot 14. The one building that we have is property, which is well over 20 feet away. I don't know if that's addressed when we go to transfer.
Well, I'll just explain. A request for a survey will be a condition. However, if your lawyer gets the okay from the registrar to accept the survey that exists, I won't require a new survey.
Perfect.
So if they can't, the condition is there in case it's not appropriate.
Okay.
So if it's fully describable, he'll be able to deal with that and you won't have to move forward with a new one. But that's something that he would have to advise me.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have any questions. Any committee members have any questions for the applicant?
None.
Seeing none, we have a motion put forth for either for or against the consent application
I'll make a motion to approve this up.
with those conditions. Seconded by Mr. Rossi, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes our meeting, Ms. Kelly.
And the only other business on the meeting is I had approached or circulated everybody on training sessions and it looks like we'll be at least September. July and August doesn't seem to be a good time. At least it would be the end of September at the earliest. And I'll need a motion to adjourn.
That forward. See.
We have an August.
Can I have a seconder on adjourn?
Carrie.